Well, good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get the webinar started. My name is Bram Briscorn. I am one of your OPSERT coordinators here with ADEQ. And today we have a couple presenters for you. We're going to be talking about WIFA funding programs for disadvantaged systems, getting you some funding education here this morning. Starting with a little bit of housekeeping before we get into our presenters today. This webinar is available for PDHs for those of you who are certified operators joining us today. In the handouts section of GoToWebinar, you should be able to download the presentations that you'll be seeing today, as well as an agenda, which you can submit to your OPSERT portal for those PDHs. We'll also be sending out a share file to everyone who has attended after the workshop is done. So those presentations will be available to you that way as well. For the duration of the webinar, webcams are disabled. All attendees are muted. But if you do have any questions, note the questions drop-down box there on GoToWebinar. You should be able to click on that, type your questions in there, and we will get answers from our panelists or any of our other staff here today. This webinar is being recorded. It will be uploaded to YouTube, the ADEQ YouTube channel, at a later date in the coming week or so. So make sure you keep an eye out for that if you'd like to revisit any of the presentations and hear anything that you might have missed. If you do have any questions, go ahead and email the OPSERT program, azopsert@azdeq.gov, or you can give us a call as well. A couple more notes before we get started for those of you who are certified operators joining us today. Just as a reminder, please remember to be checking in on your portal regularly. Make sure you know the effective dates and the expiration dates for all of your certifications. Make sure that you have all of those PDHs required by the time that you need them. Don't wait for the last minute for these renewals. Keep an eye on your portal. I recommend, it's just a best practice, not a requirement, but definitely upload PDHs as you obtain them. So if you're a certified operator joining us today, make sure you download that agenda in the handouts, and right when the webinar is done, you can go right on ahead into your portal account, upload the agenda, secure those 2 hours of PDHs. You won't have to go looking for it again at a later date. So be sure you're doing that. When in doubt, if you have any questions, operators, contact us. Again, whether or not you're an operator, if you have a question about the webinar, feel free to reach out to the OPSERT program by email or by phone. Just a few poll questions before we get started. I will send these to you and you should be able to answer a multiple choice question here. First question, are you currently receiving financial assistance from ADEQ's Technical Assistance Program or from WIFA? Give you just a minute to answer that question as it's up there on your screen. Answers coming in. All right. Just a couple more seconds and I will close this first question. Perfect. It looks like we had 10% currently receiving funding, 16% said no, 3% preparing to apply, and 21% assistance is not needed at this time. But that's a good place to be, to know where your funding options are for if you ever do need them. One more poll question before we get started. What challenges does your system face when applying for financial assistance? The application process, interpretation of qualifications, not having the required documentation, or if you have anything else that has been a wall for you, a barrier for you, feel free to drop it in the chat section of the GoToWebinar panel. Perfect. I will give just 5 more seconds here. Awesome. Looking at those results, 50% the application process, perhaps that's confusing. Hopefully that's something we can clarify somewhat this morning. 42% interpretation of qualifications, another point that may be confusing. 13% not having the required documentation, and something else. If you do have something else that you wish to share, feel free to put it in the chat or questions, or even email any of the presenters today with those questions. Or if it's just something else, that is all right as well. With that, we will go ahead and get started with our first presenter. Hannah, if you are ready, I'll go ahead and pass the screen control over to you, and we can begin with Hannah's presentation on ADEQ technical assistance.
That sounds great. Thank you, Bram. All right, let me go ahead and put it into present mode. Can you guys see my screen all right?
We can, it looks great.
All right, let me go ahead and get started then. So as Bram mentioned, my name is Hannah Walker. I work as a technical assistance coordinator for Arizona's Department of Environmental Quality Safe Drinking Water Unit. And I'm here to talk about our technical assistance and capacity development programs. To get started, I just wanted to talk a little bit about Arizona's public water systems. We have 1,510 systems, with 95.2% of those, or 1,438, being considered small systems, which is serving less than 10,000 people in population. We've got a breakdown of our population served here. So 74% of our systems serve less than 500 people, which is the majority of our systems. We've got 17% at 500 to 3,299 people, and then 5% finishing that 95% up by 3,300 people to 10,000 people. And looking at our public water systems by type, you can see that half of our public water systems are considered community, 37% are considered transient non-community, and 13% are considered non-transient non-community. Just briefly, just in case you don't know, community water systems are considered community when there's 15 service connections or 25 or more people served year-round. So this is kind of our municipal water systems typically. Our transient non-communities are 15 service connections or 25 or more people of the same people for 25 for at least 25 for at least 60 days out of the year. This is something like camps or gas stations, so they don't serve the same people that often. And then non-transient, non-community are 15 service connections or 25 or more people served, the same people served 6 months out of the year. So this is more schools and hospitals. Population served and type is important when considering who qualifies for funding. We've also got a breakdown of where water systems in Arizona fall into regards to the type of entities and classification, which is also important for funding. So the majority of systems in Arizona are considered small water systems, as we saw in our last slide. And this can determine the funding a water system qualifies for. Also, depending if a system is ACC regulated, that can be important too when discussing approval for rate increases and an ability to acquire funding. Right here on our slide, we see we've got 90% serving less than 3,300 people, and again, 74 serving less than 500. And we've got it broken down into the types of political subdivisions, federal, state, public schools, private systems, and no corporate structure found. We have discovered some public water systems that don't have a legal corporate structure designated, and this is something we want to stress is very important for a system to discuss and decide what corporate structure is best for their system. And please also consider what kind of funding your corporate system will allow you to apply for, because that's very important in the future as well. So if you don't have a designated corporate structure, please consider finding that and getting that set up. So the Safe Drinking Water Act requires states to develop and implement a program that fosters the technical, managerial, and financial capacity of public water systems. This includes technical capacity, which is the physical and technical ability of the system to serve water, such as source water adequacy, the infrastructure sufficiency, and technical knowledge of your staff. Managerial capacity is the administrative and organizational structure of the system. This is like ownership, accountability, staffing, and corporate structure. Financial capacity are, as it sounds, financial resources to maintain the system now and in the future, so revenue sufficiency, credit worthiness, and fiscal controls. You might be thinking, why is TMF capacity important? Well, it ensures the public water systems meet current and future water demands while protecting public health and the environment, maintain and improve compliance with all applicable drinking water laws and regulations, and it helps understand where additional resources are needed the most, particularly with funding and loans. Theoretically, TMF means that the public water system has the ability to plan for, achieve, and maintain compliance with applicable drinking water standards and requirements and serve their customers safe and healthy drinking water. So it is always good to keep improving your TMF. Currently, community and non-transient, non-community public water systems commencing operations after October 1st, 1999 are considered new public water systems and must submit an elementary business plan that demonstrates this TMF capacity. This elementary business plan will go to ADEQ for review and approval, and it includes the kind of capacity listed on the screen for technical, managerial, and financial. It is a template application, and if you do need to see that application or get it, it's on our technical assistance website, but you can also reach out to me. I will give you my contact at the end of the presentation. For existing water systems, we continue to work to identify systems in need and prioritize them for assistance, identify the factors that are causing compliance concerns, and then deploy resources to those public water systems by providing training, providing compliance assistance, providing technical assistance, and encouraging partnerships with other public water systems as well. Some common areas of non-compliance that we see coming into our technical assistance program include exceeding the maximum contaminant level, treatment system failure, failure to obtain the correct permits, such as approval to construct and/or approval of construction for system improvements, lack of operations and maintenance manual or failure to implement, also failure to perform preventative maintenance, and a lack of an emergency operations plan or failure to implement that plan as well. Excuse me. So our drinking water technical assistance program came about to help these small systems with their capacity needs and non-compliance. Here I've got our website to the right. It'll tell you a little bit more about our program. We've got links to resources, templates, and forms, and contact information. Technical assistance can be for project development or to improve TM capacity with our ADEQ program. So who qualifies for technical assistance? A water system that serves less than 10,000 customers and is classified as either a community or nonprofit, non-transient community, non-community. So as we kind of discussed in the first slide, that's, I think, about 95% of our system. So that does let us help quite a few of our systems in Arizona, which is great. The TA program has several contractors that it uses to help a system with different projects, such as design and rate cases. So the team does prepare a yearly master priority list, but a lot of the systems that we work with contact us directly. So if you are in need of technical assistance, even if you just want to ask, we may not be able to help you. We may be able to connect you with who can if we can't, but it's always worth reaching out and seeing if we can help support your water system. Let's see, what does it cost? The assistance program provides, the assistance the program provides is free. However, any recommendations such as purchasing equipment or construction, that will be the responsibility of the water system. Our TA program does help to identify possible funding sources for these costs and can help you guide through the funding application process if you need. The TA program can work with the water system, to identify all the funding sources and then also determine your best option. And then once the decision is made, we can help walk you through the application process. It's important to note that our technical assistance program, we don't offer direct funding, so we just offer technical assistance, and then we would pay the third-party contractors to perhaps create the study or like an asset management plan for you. Some examples of our technical assistance available include preliminary engineering reports and environmental assessments, which then can be used to apply for construction funding. We've got scoping studies to determine types of treatment and then assistance with the design of that treatment system, including pilot studies. We help a lot of people with ATC, AOC applications, so that approval to construct, approval of construction. We can help pay an engineer to prepare the design plans. However, the water system is responsible to pay the associated fees for the application, so that's something to keep in mind. We can prepare system evaluations and asset management plans, rate studies, project cost estimates, security inspections and exercises, including cybersecurity, and then also training for your board, your manager, or your operator. We do a lot of training. And then I also wanted to share with you guys our Rural Water Infrastructure Committee. So this is not an ADEQ organization, but ADEQ is a partner with them. So this is a partnership of various federal and state agencies and nonprofit organizations that provide loans, grants, and technical assistance to Arizona rural communities. So this is a gathering of like water providers, technical assistance providers, funding providers of Arizona. We meet quarterly to discuss projects, and we also invite water systems to send us a project information form, kind of describing the problem, the need for funding or technical assistance. And then we invite them to one of our quarterly meetings. They get to present their problem, and we get to kind of do a round robin of all these technical assistance and funding partners, and they can kind of tell you where they can help or where they might not be able to help. So it's really helpful for systems who don't really know where to start. So if you are kind of in that boat and you have a project planned and you want to find technical assistance or funding for it, please consider checking out our website here. As you can see, we've got contact info on the right, so you can get a hold of Sarah. She is the co-chair along with myself. You can contact Sarah or me, I'm there as well. Project information form I mentioned, that's what you fill out with some of your information to kind of get us started on the discussion of how we can help you. So you can grab that form there. There's an online web form or a fillable PDF that you can email us, whichever you prefer. We also have our funding resource matrix, which is a very helpful tool. It's a list of all the funding opportunities and agencies that we've compiled over the years. So looking through that list is a great place to start as well. Although if it gets overwhelming, you're welcome to reach out with questions. We also usually, we put our upcoming meetings there, so you'll know when the next one is when the next one will be. But you can also contact us in between meetings. You don't have to wait for a quarterly meeting. If you have a project you want to get going right away, we can also just work to help connect you with people directly. And then a list of our partners down here. So we've got Arizona Corporation Commission, the Department of Environmental Quality, that's us, Arizona Department of Housing, Department of Water Resources, Greater Arizona Development Authority, North American Development Bank, Rural Water Association of Arizona, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, Water Infrastructure Finance Authority, who you will hear from shortly, USDA Rural Development, Rural Community Assistance Corporation, Bureau of Reclamation, and U.S. EPA. So again, I hope you found this helpful. You're always welcome to contact our technical assistance coordinators, which is me, Linda Taunt, and Stephanie Diaz. Our contact information is on the slide. You can go into our technical assistance webpage and take a look there if you want to search for more resources, or I would also suggest checking out our RIC webpage. We even have a recording of our previous funding forum that kind of is about 15-minute presentations of each of our partners describing their programs and how they might be able to help. So that could be a great resource as well. But yep, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Bram a little bit early. But if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to help.
Thank you so much, Hannah. Thank you for the information. Like Hannah mentioned, if you have questions right now, you can go ahead and drop them in the questions box here on GoToWebinar. But if you have any that you want to ask at a later point, the contact info there on the screen. And like I mentioned, these presentations will be emailed out to all of you as well if you don't download them from the handouts section already today. so you can get your answers. But with that, I will turn the screen over to Lindsay Mills if you are ready to present.
Yes, I am ready.
Excellent.
Okay, can you guys see this?
It looks good.
Okay, awesome. Well, hello everybody. I am Lindsay Mills. I'm an environmental program specialist at WIFA, which is the Water Infrastructure Finance Authority of Arizona. For those of you not familiar with WIFA, let's see, how do I advance? Oh, there we go. We are a small state agency that essentially acts like a bank. We finance water projects all across the state. We do that by utilizing public funds to make our financing work for the unique needs of water systems across Arizona. This is our mission statement. We're not regulatory. We, ADWR and ADEQ, that's, those are the regulatory agencies. We don't enforce the rules. We just provide resources to help communities comply. Over the last 2 years, WIFA has become a much more visible example of Arizona's innovative and proactive approach to water. It's also become a critical resource for rural Arizona. So I'm going to kind of run through what we've done and what we can do to help communities and systems all over the state. So let's talk about how we actually put money on the ground. We have 3 main funds that we're in charge of administering, that could benefit many of the water systems on the call today. First, we've got the federally supported state revolving funds. We call them the SRFs. These are the funds that we have administered for over 30 years. The EPA provides capital for these funds, and WIFA uses that capital to make low-cost loans to water systems. They can be loans for water treatment plants, removing cesspools or septic tanks, mitigating water contamination, consolidating systems, and many other projects. Through these funds, we have invested nearly $3 billion in water infrastructure in the state. And the newly revived Water Supply Development Fund is another revolving fund, and it was created specifically for rural water systems and limited only to those water users who are outside of Arizona's major urban centers. So first up, our bread and butter, the State Revolving Fund. This would probably be the most applicable for most of you today. These are for public water systems, cities, towns, tribal entities, and special districts. For public water systems, wastewater systems, or systems that manage stormwater, as well as private ACC regulated water companies, for-profit and not-for-profit. And like I mentioned, SRF, several different types of projects are eligible. Infrastructure projects, drinking water, wastewater, stormwater, and watershed protection and restoration. And we can fund several project phases: acquisition, planning, design, construction, and improvement. So the main types of assistance are loans. We do offer discounted interest rates, flexible terms up to 30 years, and forgivable principal, which is, the best part, the free money, the grant tied to those loans. And then similar to ADEQ, we can provide technical assistance that is combined with financial assistance. And this is services delivered by WIFA staff, and we contract directly with professionals to help with planning a design or compliance with federal requirements, such as Davis-Bacon or environmental review. So the most exciting part of financial assistance is when it's free money. We are able to offer forgivable principal for most of our funding. So first I'll cover forgivable principal that we can offer on drinking water projects. So all drinking water projects are eligible to receive some amount of forgivable principal. There are 3 main tiers that address the amount of forgivable principal that we can award. The 3 tiers consider the loan amount and give priority to disadvantaged communities and projects which address a public health threat. So our forgivable principal is mainly focused on smaller projects across the state. We provide larger percentages to communities that qualify as disadvantaged, and projects that are smaller resolve public health threat and resolve non-point source pollution problems. Excuse me. For wastewater and stormwater, forgivable principal is structured a little bit differently. For disadvantaged communities, we can provide up to 50% of the total project costs in forgivable principal. For green projects, we can provide up to 20%, and then projects that mitigate stormwater up to 20%. So just to give you an idea, the maximum amounts for a clean water, stormwater project would be, say a project is disadvantaged, solving a non-point source pollution problem, and the project is $250,000 or less, we could award up to 100% forgivable principal, so that would act as a 100% grant. And then to go over technical assistance, so if a community applies for a construction loan, we can provide a certain amount of technical assistance, grant funding, to pair with that loan. And we have 3 main uses for technical assistance. Project design, so if a system needs to get some design work done, but it's just an amount that is hard for them to pay out of pocket, we can cover up to $50,000 for project design. If a project requires environmental review, environmental assessment, a cost and effectiveness analysis, or a fiscal sustainability plan, we can provide technical assistance as well, up to $50,000. And then if a system or project needs assistance with complying with Davis-Bacon wage monitoring, we can award up to $20,000 in technical assistance to help with that. So the application process is pretty straightforward for the state revolving fund. The first step is to submit a project priority list application on our online portal. That's kind of high-level overview of the project, of the applicant. It gets us an idea of, you know, what you're trying to do, how much money you think you might need, and then it allows us to kind of do a preliminary scoring and ranking of the project and just feasibility and eligibility of the applicant, and kind of gives us an idea and starting point for how much we might be able to award as far as forgivable principal. Excuse me. The next step is to obtain debt authorization. So if you are applying for an amount of loan financing, the governing body will need to pass debt authorization. So if you are a government entity, that looks like passing a debt authorization resolution by your governing body. If you are a private entity, that would look like getting financing approval through the ACC. And then, so our staff would, once the applicant gets debt authorization, we would send you the full project finance application, which is a packet of documents that asks for technical, managerial, and financial capability information. We would review those documents and put together our due diligence report, and then we would present the application and project to our federal programs committee, and then they would recommend approval to the WIFA board. So the project would go through 2 meetings, and then after the board approves, then we can move into loan closing execution, and then the funding would be made available to be spent. So all in all, if say the applicant submits an application, gets debt authorization immediately, you're looking at, from start to finish, it could take as little as 3 months, you know, time of application to ready to draw down the funds. So to highlight a few of our successful projects in the recent this past year, excuse me. First, we have the White Mountain Apache Housing Authority project. We were able to, they were able to secure a loan for $721,000, but we were able to forgive a little over $450,000 of that. So they were, you know, only out, their loan amount was only around $300,000. The rest was covered by WIFA through forgivable principal. They were charged with addressing the tribe's chronic housing shortage because meeting the housing needs of the members has been a challenge. And with limited funding available and little economic development, it was critical that they find affordable and innovative sources of funding to meet this critical need. So our loan to the Housing Authority funded the extension of drinking water services and water distribution lines to 38 rental units, as well as sewer lines to, to connect those homes to water and sewer. Next, the Yavapai Apache Nation wastewater treatment project. They were able to secure a loan for around $16 million, and we were able to forgive a little over $1.5 million. And we were able to help them replace an outdated sewage lagoon system on the reservation. And that was through the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. And lastly, a newly approved project for Gila County was to remove cesspools, and this project is just now getting, it was just approved, so they're working through getting the project started. And this is a kind of a new way of funding for this specific type of project. It's a new innovative funding mechanism that we passed. In June 2023, the WIFA Board of Directors approved a significant policy change allowing non-governmental organizations and political subdivisions like counties to access funds for addressing pollution cesspools and aging septic systems. And then in July of this year, WIFA approved the 100% forgivable $250,000 loan to Gila County. And this is going to help fund the replacement of cesspools with approved septic systems, which is a significant step towards safeguarding public health and groundwater quality. And then the third and final main funding program that I will cover is the newly revived Water Supply Development Revolving Fund, which is, if you've not heard of it, it's new this past year, so we're trying to roll it out, and it's been a big success as far as the amount of applications that we've received so far, and we're really excited about it. It was specifically created to help rural Arizona, those systems outside of the active management areas and outside of the larger metropolitan areas in the state. We like to call it the Rural Fund, and we've got about $150 million to provide in installments of up to $5 million. Depending on the financial need of the borrower and the type of project, applicants can receive up to $2 million in grant funds and up to $3 million in loan funds for a total of $5 million in total financial assistance per project. So like I said, it was meant to serve rural Arizona. So it's projects that are not located in the Phoenix, Pinal, or Tucson AMAs. So eligible entities are cities, towns, districts, and just as long as they meet the geographic requirements of outside of those areas. Eligible projects, it's a pretty broad scope of what we can cover with water supply development. It's a broad definition under the statute. It can include well construction, recharge facilities, conservation projects, efficient deliveries. Some current projects that we've seen come through are well rehabs and construction, storage tanks, stormwater capture and recharge, injection wells for recharge, including PFAS remediation, and sustainable delivery system, booster pumps, water line replacements, that kind of thing. So it's pretty broad, which is nice. And let's see, the form on the right here is the project priority list application. So I can kind of go over the application process in a moment. But that's just a snapshot of kind of what it looks like. The first page, basic information similar to our state revolving fund application. The project priority list application is to just get the application in front of us, you know, high level overview, so we can start scoring and getting an idea of what we can offer. So that document is online on our website, and I can you can download it online and then just submit to our email, and that's all outlined on our website. So it's a pretty easy process to submit an application. And the next would be, you know, how much we can cover, and that's the financial assistance index. Excuse me. Applications currently are scored in 4 different areas: water demands, project benefits, feasibility, and financial need. The higher the financial need score, the more free money that you qualify for. And the higher your overall score, the more favorable your loan terms will be. So as you can see here, as you're filling out the project priority list application, we built it in a way to you'll be able to score yourself as you're filling it out, depending on how you're answering the questions. So this is kind of how it's weighted. And the financial need score is largely based on your median household income compared to the state's median household income. And so we have 3 main tiers for the Water Supply Development Fund. If you score in tier 1, that would be your highest financial need and index score tier. So applicants would be eligible to receive up to $2 million in grants. And any costs over $2 million may be covered by loan funds, not to exceed $3 million in loan. And then if you score in that second tier, 80% index score, you could be eligible to receive up to $5 million, which would be a 40% grant, 60% loan split. And if you're in that third tier, we can still help you. It's just we wouldn't be able to cover any in grant funding, but you would be eligible for a loan to cap at $3 million. So why I choose WIFA for financing, we do offer forgivable principal, below market interest rates, design loans, and grants through the new Water Supply Development Fund. Staff bandwidth, we have flexible application windows. So the 3 funding programs that I covered today are an open rolling basis, so you can submit an application at any time. We do post our committee and board meetings on our website. So that gives you kind of an idea of, if you apply at this time, you know, how soon the project can go to the next meeting. But like I said, we accept applications at any time. Individualized assistance from project managers assigned specifically to your loan, and then opportunity for free technical assistance. And that's all I have. So we've got the WIFA project team. Like I said, I am Lindsay. I'm one of the environmental program specialists. So each of us on our team cover different counties throughout the state. So depending on where your water system is located, this is kind of who you might want to reach out to start the conversation with one of us at WIFA to, you know, run your project by us, get an idea of what we can offer, the time frame, and that kind of stuff. So I serve Apache, Gila, La Paz, Navajo, and Yuma counties, and then my my team serves the rest of the state through their different counties. And yeah, that's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Lindsay. There are a couple questions in here for you. And please, attendees, if you have more questions, this is a great time to submit those and we can get you some answers now. First, how do you find out, how to find out if our system has been assigned a corporate structure?
I'm not quite sure how to answer that. I don't know if WIFA is necessarily involved in that process.
I might be able to take a stab at it. I think it should be a legal corporate structure. So if you don't have like the paperwork for it, you might be able to talk to ACC. I think some of their corporate structures, that's how that's defined. But other than that, that's a great question. Let me look into that a little bit more, and maybe we can send out a follow-up answer for that. Unless, Bram, do you have more information on that?
No, that's about what I would say. ACC is probably, you have one or you don't. So you should be able to find it if it's there.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I think it's basically filing with the state to kind of create it like a nonprofit LLC or another type. But let me go ahead and talk to my coworker Linda a little bit more about that, and maybe we can put out a little fact question for that, frequently asked question for that.
perfect. Thank you, Hannah.
Yep, thank you.
Question for you, Lindsay. Does fire flow requirement qualify as water demands in order to qualify for funding?
We can cover fire flow as long as it's not the only objective of the project. It can be part of the project, but it cannot be the only purpose of the project, if that makes sense. So if it's tied to, extension of water lines just to serve the community, service homes, then it can be tied on to something like that.
Perfect. And there are two questions here pertaining to median household incomes.
Okay.
First one, how to find out the median household income for our area? We cannot do it by zip code because it includes the town of Maricopa.
Okay, great question. So our go-to is just using the census website. And it is kind of tricky sometimes if, just searching the zip code or the name of the community doesn't work. The website is not the most fun to use. There's a little bit of digging that's involved sometimes if it doesn't just come right up. So it's kind of individualized in that way. If it's not, directly showing the MHI. If that system would want to reach out to me or one of my teammates, I can help kind of navigate that website, but it is just data.census.gov, I believe. And we don't really have a tutorial on how to use it, but it is, it's just kind of clicking around on the map in there and trying to narrow down exactly your service area. So if that, if a system is struggling to find their MHI on the census website, please feel free to reach out to one of us and we can kind of help dig around and try to find the amount that is the most appropriate to use. That comes up a lot actually with the applications. You would hope that there's enough census website to make it easy, census data to make it easy to find median household income, but sometimes it's not so straightforward. So we're happy to help find that.
Perfect. And you might have answered some of that there, but the next one is, how is median household income established? And then what is the maximum to qualify for loans?
Median household income is established through just I think right now we're using the 2022 5-year estimate from the US Census. And to the way that we score MHI is a bit different through water supply development compared to Clean Water and Drinking Water State Revolving Fund. So the Clean Water and Drinking Water State Revolving Fund, it's pretty clear cut. We look at the water systems areas MHI, and if they are 90% or less of the state's MHI, then they can qualify as disadvantaged. So that's pretty generous. I think the state's MHI right now, we're looking at the 2022 5-year estimate, and it's 72,580, I think. So if the systems areas MHI is 90% of that or less, then they could qualify for as disadvantaged and be able to score higher and get higher levels of forgivable principal, which that covers a lot of areas in the state. Most of rural Arizona is able to classify as disadvantaged based on that criteria. And then for water supply development funds, let me see if I can go back on my slide here. Maybe it's not on here, but it is on our preliminary project priority list application, it breaks down the MHI table, and it's different categories of percentage compared to the state's MHI as well, but it's not, you know, as the drinking water and clean water, it's not the 90% clear cut, it's different tiers, just because scoring is a bit more competitive with Water Supply Development Fund.
Perfect. And anyone who's asking questions, if you do have follow-ups, feel free to ask them now as well, as following up through the contact information. One more, if you know off the top of your head, Lindsay, do you know the census website where you can find that information?
Yes, I believe, let me see if I can pull it up here. It is data.census.gov.
Awesome, data.census.gov. I will give just one more minute for questions here. That is all of them for now.
Okay. And like I mentioned, we, you know, we've got our team of program specialists that serve each county. So it's, you know, always a great idea to just reach out to us if you have any questions about your system, about projects that you have in mind, and just get that conversation going. That's a good starting point. We can point you in the right direction as far as which funding program makes most sense, and kind of give you an idea of what you might be eligible for and how to go about it. And we are the project managers throughout the life of your, you know, of your loan application. And once construction gets started, we are here to help answer any of those questions. We pride ourselves in, you know, trying to help rural systems as much as we can. And, you know, with government funding does come different requirements and paperwork, but we try to make that as painless as possible throughout the process.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Lindsay.
Thank you.
As a reminder to all of the certified operators joining us today, make sure you download that agenda from the handouts form for PDHs, as well as any presentations. Those will be in the handouts section as well, and we will be following up with an email that has a copy of the presentations on a share file, so you should be able to access those as you need. Again, feel free if you have any follow-up questions or questions about operator certification in general, you can shoot the OpCert program an email or a phone call. But with that, that is our webinar for this morning. I will leave it open for just another minute or two here, just in case there's any more questions. But with that, you are all dismissed. Thank you for attending. It's been a pleasure having you with us this morning. Ted, I do see your note here, no handouts section. GoToWebinar, for whatever reason, sometimes doesn't display the handout section for all users. As I mentioned, we'll be sending out a share file with the presentations, but if you do need a copy of the agenda, you can go ahead and reach out, or we will, yeah, there you go, the email. We'll go ahead and email you the agenda there. Thank you. Excellent. Well, with that, I will be closing the webinar. Thanks again for everyone who attended, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.